Good afternoon, it's Amanda FitzGerald, and today I'm going to do Amanda FitzGerald interviews Bianca Barratt. Thank you so much for joining me, and I want to really get to know what is going on in the journalistic landscape now with these crazy coronavirus times. So Bianca, just tell me a bit about yourself anyway, your top line bio.
Hi Amanda, thanks for having me on. My name's Bianca Barratt. I am a culture, lifestyle and business journalist, mostly writing for UK and US titles such as Forbes, Sunday Times, Evening Standard, BBC, Good Food, Refinery 29, The Independent, etc, etc, etc. And I am still writing during these crazy corona times.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting time to be a journalist, actually, as obviously the media is one of the industries that lots of people are currently turning to for various reasons. So
yeah. I actually spoke to a friend the other day, and she said, because I consume, as you can see, everything, Channel 4 News, the Times, this, that, and the other. And she said she's got a friend who just consumes alternative news, and it's, YouTube. And I said, oh, I wouldn't go to YouTube because nothing is verified, because you lovely journalists have gone through so much training and you have to have everything independently verified. So don't you agree that, getting it off YouTube might be a bit of fake news going on?
I just think whatever media title you're choosing to turn to for news about the coronavirus or anything related to updates on coronavirus, you really want to ask yourself, is this title known to be informative, or is it known to look to entertain? Or I think you just have to be really make your own mind up about what that particular news outlet and the way the headline is written, whether it's there to try and give you as much information as you need, or whether it's there to make you feel like you're in on a new scandal, or something juicy has been revealed. Is it there to make you want to click and read the link, or is it there to give you as much information as possible? And obviously if you're looking on something like YouTube, if it's from a verified news source and it's their YouTube channel, because obviously a lot of media titles are using video now as one of their kind of media mediums, then great, that's fine. But if it's from kind of an unknown YouTube user, do you trust that they have correct information?
Sure.
Are you able to verify it yourself? I mean, in terms of the actual virus and information on it, most media outlets will be doing as the government does and turning to the World Health Organization for up-to-date, accurate, non-biased, and that's really important.
Yeah, that is the word I was looking for, actually, because journalists have to be non-biased, don't they?
Well,
you
say that, but you know what? Again, I'd say it really depends on the title.
Okay.
Because you'll see, as I'm sure you, as most people can, you can Google coronavirus and various newsletters will be up there, and some of them are reporting responsibly and trying to stay as neutral as possible, while others are looking to get those clicks and are actually inducing kind of panic or confusion, depending on the wording of how they're saying stuff. So for example, you could find a few days ago there were various media outlets talking about what's going on in Italy, and some of them might say death toll has risen, but the number of new cases has gone down. So that's giving you a very balanced view of what's actually going on, whereas some will just say the death toll is rising even though they've been in lockdown for weeks. And they're not actually including information that, well, the new cases rate is actually going down, so it is. So it really depends on the outlet and how they're choosing what they're cherry picking to tell you about, and whether they're giving you the whole story or not.
Okay, good. So with that in mind, how are you personally and your colleagues finding the whole press landscape at the moment? Because I mean, you're having to work from home, you can't go out to do your interviews. I know that Sophie Rayworth is running through London and doing her photographs of the empty tourist sites. You know, she's a journalist. Would she be a key worker? I don't know, you know, because she's allowed still to go running, but you know, you're not allowed to go out and do your meetings. And so how are you and your colleagues finding it? And what are your editors saying?
It's a really interesting time because, well, I'm freelance, so I'm kind of used to working remotely. But yes, it has been challenging not being able to go and meet people in person, etc. And where inboxes were already saturated for journalists and editors have now become even more so, because it's sort of now the only way really to communicate. But in terms of my colleagues who work in house at places, obviously they're all having to work from home. Many of them are finding that tough because actually the newsroom is often, there's all those, as you sort of say, water cooler moments that you miss out on, and incoming big news stories that hit a particular desk first and then filter down to other desks. You're obviously not having that line of communication open anymore, so that's a real challenge. And also I think striking the right balance between talking about the virus because you can't not talk about it, because it's affected everybody's lives in huge ways and will continue to do so for, you know, an unquantified amount of time.
Yeah.
But also it's like, yes, finding the balance between talking about it and then also providing entertainment in other ways that's still relevant but is offering some form of escape. So it's quite a challenge when journalists and editors can't be talking about a lot of the subjects they would normally cover because at the moment they're not relevant, or they're not running, or it wouldn't be appropriate. So it's a really interesting time that's kind of challenging writers and editors to.
Do you think for editors it's a really, you know, hugely challenging time? So I was reading the Fabulous magazine, and she said, you know, we're literally putting the magazine together from our homes with children snapping at our heels. I can't imagine how their job is. And they must have, and also at the beginning of the year, or whenever you do your kind of have your meetings, you decide forward features, that's probably all gone out of the window. So
this is it, because you just don't know as well with print stuff how much which places are still going to be running their print rooms, at what point if and when the government might say that print has to stop because of, you know, that there's too many people having to come together to actually physically make these magazines and papers. It's such an uncertain landscape for sure.
Yeah, gosh, I mean it's a really hard one. And do you think that, you know, because you do open the newspapers and it's literally coronavirus for the first 14 pages of, you know, like a broadsheet or whatever, do you think we're going to end up getting coronavirus fatigue and we will be wanting to have some good news stories?
Yes, I do think so. I think as you know, I do feel that the shock is already starting to wear off. People have sort of gotten used to, as much as you can, the lockdown situation and are dealing with it as best they can. And I think obviously people want to remain informed about what's going on, and they want to know. I think the mood will change from needing to know, oh my God, what's going on in every country and what are these big sort of headlines coming in, to, okay, so how is this going to affect us moving forward? You know, people once they're over the shock are starting to ask, what's the future going to look like for us then? How do we move forward and ensure that when we come out of this, we actually have something resembling kind of a modern society to go back to, whether you know it's the same or kind of looking in, you know, a new way. And I do think people also, it's sort of, you have, again, there's a fine balance between putting so much kind of catastrophic style news out there that people either become panicked or fatigued and kind of no longer affected by it, so that they get
immune to it.
Yeah, immune to it, and kind of they no longer sort of feel that worried about following the rules to the letter, but also keeping them up to date and keeping them informed. So I do think it is starting to shift what people are looking for in the news.
And you know, have you kind of noticed that some people who regularly pitch you have actually had a change? I mean, the word of the moment is pivot. You know, they've pivoted their businesses. There's one company called the Carousel Light Company, and they were in Twitter. It was amazing because they normally just do carousel, you know, neon lights, and they have at the front is protected by how do you call it, PVC, you know, acrylic. And they've actually now made those into screens, so they're actually giving them non-for-profit or whatever, or reduced profit margins, and they're selling those to pharmacies and to shops. But that's totally pivoting. I think it's so creative what they're doing. Have you come across any interesting stories like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously been big stories about big companies such as Dyson and Virgin moving various parts of their business to create ventilators, etc., but also smaller businesses that are run by solopreneurs who are having to take their physical businesses and move them online. I mean, everything from, I have a friend who's a psychotherapist, and all her client interactions obviously now have to be done digitally, which is a very strange environment if you're working in any kind of mental health therapy. I have friends who run events businesses that are having to now change to a really strange landscape of running.
So what are they going to do? Because I've got a friend who runs an events business. What the hell are they going to do?
It's strange, because I think in some ways there'll be certain aspects we take out of this that will be great for the future, and will hopefully offer people more flexibility in terms of things like working from home, etc. But I do think there are some things that, if you're running, for example, an events business, that a lot of people will be itching to get back to what they normally do, because there are some things that just don't translate as well digitally, you know, and so I really feel for those people that are kind of having to massively pivot in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense for them. But what I do think is interesting is, particularly the larger companies, the way they respond to this virus. And I think, you know, the same can be said for smaller companies too. A lot of their clients and prospective clients are watching, and they're looking to see who is helping with the effort and who is hindering it by not supporting their staff. And that, you know, not all businesses are capable of fully employing their staff throughout this, but, you know, it's how companies are dealing with this in a sensitive way, or actually providing, giving something back to the community that's always kind of supported their business. And I've really noticed a change in consumer behavior. I think it's become more concentrated, and things that mattered to consumers before about way companies were presenting themselves have come to matter the most now, because, for example, retail fashion brands that got rid of all their staff and have all their supply chains in developing countries that have collapsed and left millions of people without jobs. People are now boycotting those places, even though you can still buy from them digitally, because they are doing nothing to help with the efforts. And, you know, I heard about the founder of Wetherspoons, who ended up really having to change his line of communication after not following government guidance when restrictions first came in, and he realized quickly how damaging that could be to his business in the future, because people want to know that the big brands that have always they have supported in the past are going to be now supporting those communities in return. So
he likes to be quite a maverick, doesn't he? What's his name? Because he stopped doing all social media. Do you remember? Like a few months back in the summer or a year ago, he just said, right, we're not doing social media at all. So he's a bit controversial as a character anyway. So do you still feel, you with your journalistic hat on, of course, that small businesses still can be pitching to the press?
Absolutely.
It's got to be corona, you know, because I was reading something, you know, people are just trying to shoehorn coronavirus into any of their pitches. So what's your feeling about A, pitching, and B, the relevance with coronavirus?
Well, a little bit like I said before, I mean, I do think people should continue to pitch. As I said, the media is now one of the industries that has seen a massive uptake in audience digitally because,
Hooray!
yeah, people are looking to get into, people need information and entertainment, etc., from the media. And people no longer have other ways to receive that because everyone's stuck in their houses with naught but the internet to find out about things. So yes, absolutely, continue to pitch, but as you were saying, Amanda, obviously pitches have increased and a lot of them are to do with the coronavirus. And yes, it needs to be acknowledged, we are living in a time where it's affecting every area of our lives, so will obviously therefore affect the media and the communication that's being put out there to the public. But I do think, you know, just be careful about the way you are pitching to the media, because the pitches coming into my inbox have increased massively, but almost all of them have coronavirus or COVID-19 in the subject line, and it gets really hard to distinguish one from another. You want to be making sure you're standing out, but in a way that is still sensitive to the situation going on. So I think what's really important is that, and this goes for any time really, when you're pitching, thinking about the value that you are offering to not just the journalists, but to their audience. Yeah. So what is your pitch going to be doing? Because you've got to think about what people are going to the media for at the moment, and it's for information, inspiration, entertainment, distraction. There are, you know, various things that people are wanting from the media, and they're not always information about the coronavirus. It could be that they're looking for distraction or entertainment, but obviously it has to be something that they can access during these unprecedented times. So yes, you want to be ensuring that your pitch is in line with that, but also what is it offering? You don't always need to be giving information on coronavirus. Think carefully about not just the journalist, but the audience that you're pitching to, the audience that is going to be reading your piece, and what kind of value they'll be looking to take from it. And that should help give you a better understanding of how you should be approaching that pitch, and and making sure you're pitching it to the right people as well.
Okay, good, brilliant tip. And have you had more briefs, or, you know, because I know you're freelance, so you have to pitch. Have you been pitching a load more recently within the last 3 weeks, or is it? You know, 'cause I know your inbox is bursting with everything. Are you getting more things through?
Yeah, so there are a few places that I don't have to pitch to. I write for them, I sort of have an ongoing agreement with, and then there are a few places I write for that I pitch ideas to, or an editor might come to me and ask me to write a piece that they have in mind. But yes, I have. I have sent out a few more pitches recently to do with, you know, along the lines that I was just saying to you, that will either be a distraction or entertainment, or something to do with inspiring people in a way to do with how to better, you know, run their businesses during these times, etc. Because I've had a lot of really interesting people coming through who, like you said, are doing incredible things with pivoting their businesses, or have got some really interesting research on all sorts of different things that the public would find really useful or just interesting. And so, yeah, there's been quite a lot through. And obviously without other distractions, now I've noticed for me, and I'm isolating alone as well, so I don't even have other people in my house distracting me. It's actually been a really creative time for me, so I found it quite easy to get inspired about things that I want to pitch, etc. So that's
my final question is, what skill, because you've seen my silly Instagram videos and I was doing two-handed ping pong against the wall, what skill or what are you taking up? What have you started to do during your moments of solitude? Have you done anything? Press up, planks? Is that what you're doing?
I am turning into, you know, an accomplished young woman, such that Jane Austen would be proud of. I've started up my guitar again. I'm finishing writing my novel.
Wow, you really are.
I've started Italian lessons again. It's, you know, it's incredible. I've been doing all sorts in here.
Sing guitar in Italiano.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Bianca, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
It's been really enjoyable speaking with you, getting all your hints and tips. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.